invest in people in the long term, there has to be a mutual understanding.
Hustle hard. Close mouths don't get fed. Thinking strategically, but acting like a gorilla is the kind of marketing that's small. When it innovates very little, it's highly risk averse. It indicates
What if the biggest opportunity in artificial intelligence is not replacing the person who does the work? What if it is helping that person arrive better prepared, better informed, less buried in fragmented information, and more able to keep a real promise to a customer? If you lead a service business, a trade company, a field team, a dispatch operation, or an organization where people carry real responsibility in the real world, this conversation is for you. And I want to introduce you to a new free supplemental resource connected to the ideas behind Deemed Essential, Built for the Work, Premium Edition. This is not a book about chasing the newest technology. It is not an argument that software should replace skilled people. And it is not a shortcut around judgment, accountability, or service. It is a 78-page field guide for a more demanding question. How can we use intelligent tools to help responsible people serve better without losing the human judgment that matters? Because customers do not experience your company as a stack of software. They experience a person who shows up prepared, an honest answer when the situation is uncertain, a clear handoff, and the confidence that someone owns what happens next. That is the standard. The work is the standard. We wrote this premium edition because service organizations are facing a very real tension. On one side, there is pressure to move faster, more customer messages, more documentation, more systems, more expectations, more information scattered across schedules, notes, photos, texts, email, estimates, and memory. On the other side, there is the work itself, diagnosing a real condition, protecting safety, honoring a customer commitment, coaching a new employee, making a judgment call when the situation does not match the script. Too often, the people closest to the customer are asked to carry the cost of weak information flow. They are forced to chase the history, reconstruct the promise, search for the instruction, and guess who owns the exception. That is not simply an administrative inconvenience. It consumes attention. It produces rework. It makes the customer repeat themselves. And it can turn a capable professional into the last line of defense against a system that did not prepare them. So the core conviction behind this guide is simple. The craft deserves protection. The technician, installer, dispatcher, coordinator, supervisor, and owner should not have to spend the best part of their attention hunting for information that already exists somewhere in the organization. And this is where the title comes from. Built for the Work is about building the organization around the work that matters, not forcing the work to bend around fashionable technology. The guide is a supplement to Deemed Essential because the ideas belong together. If we believe that service matters, that people who do consequential work deserve respect, and that leadership is expressed through responsibility to others, then we have to ask what responsible leadership looks like in an intelligent age. It does not look like nostalgia, but it does not look like blind acceleration either. It looks like giving people better preparation, clearer records, usable escalation paths, and visible authority. Why now? Because AI is already entering the service organization, not always through a robot in the field, but through the spaces between the office and the field. It is showing up in the drafting of customer messages, in the summarizing of notes, in the retrieval of approved information, in the classification of requests, in the preparation of job histories, in the organization of a manager's review queue. That can be useful, but it can also create a dangerous illusion. A system can produce fluent language without possessing responsibility. A polished summary is not necessarily a verified record. A suggested response is not an approved customer promise. A completed checklist is not the same thing as a qualified person accepting the quality of work. And that distinction matters more now because the technology is becoming easier to access faster than many organizations are building the operating discipline to govern it. The question is not, can AI do something impressive? The question is, can our people see the source? Can they correct the output? Do they know when to pause? Is the boundary between assistance and authority still clear? That is why the guide does not start with an AI vendor, a flashy demo, or a grand transformation promise. It starts with the customer promise. What must be true for the next responsible person to serve well? What information should they have before they begin? What uncertainty needs to stay visible? Who owns the exception when it appears? Those are leadership questions, and they are operational questions. Technology only earns its place when it helps answer them well. The Premium Edition is a practical field guide for accountable AI-assisted service organizations. It is designed for leaders who want to think clearly before they move quickly. It has 3 major movements. First, it helps us see the work behind the work. A customer sees a repair, an installation, a visit, an answer, or a follow-up. But behind every one of those moments is a chain: intake, records, scheduling, preparation, field observation, escalation, customer communication, closeout, and learning. When that chain is weak, the field absorbs the cost. Second, it helps leaders identify where AI assistance may be genuinely useful right now, not as a replacement for skilled work, but as support for recurring information tasks. For example, preparing a closeout draft from a technician's dictated notes, drafting a routine reschedule acknowledgement from approved language, retrieving current, approved customer preparation instructions, or organizing records into a human review queue. Those uses are intentionally modest, and that is a feature, not a limitation. The best first use case is often not the most dramatic. It is the one that is recurring, bounded, reviewable, reversible, and owned by a real person. Third, the guide gives leaders a human governance model. It includes practical maps, worksheets, and 14 integrated workbook tools, appendices A through N, to help a team define the work worth protecting, map the handoff, establish authority, test a use case, set review expectations, and plan a measured 30, 60, and 90-day pilot. It also separates kinds of statements clearly: evidence, my own leadership interpretation, composite examples, and recommended practices. That matters because responsible leadership means being honest about what a source establishes, what we are learning locally, and what still requires judgment. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this: protect the craft, remove the chase, improve the handoff. Protect the craft means we respect the human ability to see a condition, interpret context, communicate honestly, and take responsibility. Remove the chase means we stop asking good people to waste time searching across disconnected systems for information that should be available, current, and understandable. Improve the handoff means the next responsible person should not have to start over. They should be able to see what the customer said, what was observed, what is verified, what remains unresolved, who made a decision, and what commitment was actually approved. That is not merely a technology aspiration, it is a service standard. Here's a practical example. Imagine a repeat service call. The customer says, "This problem is happening again." The intake person records the concern. The prior technician left notes. There may be photos, there may be a past promise that needs verification, a dispatcher has to prepare the next visit, the field professional needs context before walking through the door, an AI-assisted workflow might prepare a concise brief from approved source records, but the human dispatcher reviews it. The technician corrects it if the reality on site differs. Any diagnosis, safety concern, price or scope change, unusual customer remedy, payment issue, or completion decision stays with a qualified, accountable human being. That is the model: assistance without hidden authority. We are not trying to make responsibility disappear behind a confident-looking answer. We are trying to make responsible people better prepared to serve. Now let me be very clear about the human governance position in this edition. This guide does not recommend handing consequential decisions to an AI system. In the model we lay out, these remain human decisions: technical diagnosis and professional judgment, safety decisions and stop work authority, price and scope exceptions, unusual customer promises, remedies and commitments, payments and financial release, employment and people decisions, completion, quality acceptance, and warranty commitments, privacy and disclosure decisions. Why? Because consequence should stay close to accountable judgment. A tool may help organize symptoms. It may retrieve a manual. It may format observations. It may flag a missing field. But it does not decide that a site is safe. It does not authorize a refund. It does not certify a completed job. It does not quietly determine whether a person should be hired, disciplined, or compensated. That boundary is not anti-technology. It is pro-responsibility. And the guide insists on something else that matters. A pause is not failure. If the source is missing, if the output conflicts with the record, if a request involves safety, health, property damage, money, personnel, sensitive information, or an unusual customer situation, the right action may be to pause and escalate. A mature organization does not hide uncertainty because the system sounds confident. It makes uncertainty visible and gives people a practical route to do the right thing. So, what now? Not buy every tool. Not tell your team to use AI. Not automate the customer experience. Start with one real service promise and one handoff. For the first 30 days, understand and bound the work. Choose a specific problem, perhaps preparing repeat visit context, turning field dictation into a reviewable closeout, retrieving approved customer preparation instructions, or drafting a standard reschedule acknowledgement. Map what happens today with the people who actually do the work. Identify the approved sources, name the workflow owner, name the reviewer, state what the system may prepare, and what it may never decide or send. Define a stop condition. For days 31 through 60, run a small controlled pilot. Limit the users, job types, and inputs. Preserve source evidence. Ask people to mark corrections rather than quietly fixing errors. Review the workflow each week. Did it omit important context? Did it invent something? Did it create more burden? Did it make a customer message less clear? Did it help someone arrive better prepared? Then, in days 61 through 90, decide with evidence. Do not measure only speed. Look at correction types, missing context, escalations, employee confidence, customer message quality, privacy concerns, and whether the workflow truly supported the service promise. At the end, there are 4 honorable outcomes. Stop, revise, and retest. Keep it as a controlled practice, or expand carefully. Expansion is earned. A helpful drafting workflow does not automatically justify automated customer chat, broader data access, or a new layer of autonomy. That is what a responsible first step looks like. Small enough to understand, disciplined enough to trust, and useful enough to improve the work. Built for the work. Premium Edition is for leaders who believe that the future of service should not require us to choose between capable people and useful technology. We can protect craft and improve the system around it. We can use intelligent assistance without surrendering human authority. We can reduce needless chasing without removing the judgment that customers, employees, and communities depend on. And we can build organizations that are not only faster or more modern, but more trustworthy. If that is the kind of conversation you want to lead in your organization, I invite you to request a free 78-page premium edition at deemedessential.org, Trade and AI. Take it to your leadership team. Use the workbook. Pick one handoff worth improving. Start the discussion. And if this video was valuable, please subscribe here on YouTube and follow the Dr. Claude Kershner Show wherever you listen to podcasts. We will keep exploring leadership, service, entrepreneurship, organizational health, and the future of work, with one commitment at the center of it all. The work is the standard. I'm Dr. Claude Kershner. Thank you for being part of this conversation.
Investing in people in the long term, there has to be a mutual understanding.
Hustle hard. Close mouths don't get fed. Thinking strategically, but acting like a gorilla is the kind of marketing that small business want to innovate very little. It's highly risk averse.